Good morning. We begin our service today by acknowledging that the land on which our homes and our church were built was not uninhabited when European settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in Moscow, Pullman, or other nearby communities, we live on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Shitshumsh, called the Coeur d'Alene. If you're joining us from another place, I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide. And find out, too, where they are now. We pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. And now let's join our voices together for our words of welcome, our unison chalice lighting, and our sung affirmation. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever your beliefs, whomever you love, and however bumpy your life's journey, know that you are welcome here.
Good morning, I'm Pam Arbor Green. Will you please join with me as we say the words to light our chalice? In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and we seek to share.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung in every land by every tongue.
Today is the first Sunday in the Christian season of Advent. Advent means waiting. It's a time of waiting, a time of resting, a time of preparing ourselves for the coming of something new and hopeful. For Christians, hopes for peace, joy, love, and justice live in the story and the person of Jesus of Nazareth. While Unitarian Universalism grows from Christian roots, our hopes have gotten bigger and messier through the years, kind of like our faith. Nonetheless, because we too dream of a world with peace and justice for all, a world that is worthy of our children, we take advantage of this season to reconnect with what we are waiting for, to recommit to doing our part to make our dreams a reality. 9 months into the pandemic, I recognize a lot of fatigue in the people I speak with and in my own heart and spirit and being. I also see impatience, especially on the part of people who have been oppressed for far too long. The long, cold nights of the Advent season lend themselves to rest, and the sparks of hope and joy we kindle in this time to keep going, to keep moving forward, can shine like the North Star and guide us on our way. So today's service will invite us to wait patiently, to embrace restorative practices, to fix our eyes once more on the destination for our human journey, and to trust the long, slow process of social and spiritual evolution. In that spirit, I say, come, let us worship together. And our first hymn will be People Look East.
People look east, the time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth forth and set the table. People look east and sing today, love the guest is on the way. Furrows, be glad though earth is bare, one more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish, that in course the flower may flourish. People look east and sing today, love the rose is on the way. Stars keep the watch when night is dim, one more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. People look east and sing today, love the star is on the way.
And let's now enter a time of meditation or of prayer. Will you breathe with me? Deep breath in. Pause. Deep breath out. Advent, waiting, is like that moment of pause. We know that the inhale was leading us somewhere. We know that the exhale is coming, but we are suspended in time between the in-breath and the out. It takes discipline to wait. We have to resist the impulse to try to figure things out or force things to happen. We have to sit with the discomfort of not knowing for sure what to expect. We have to let go of attachment to outcome. We just wait, suspended, present, open, and breathe in, pause, out. These are the words of my colleague, the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. This is the season of anticipation, of expecting, of hoping, of wanting. This is the time of expecting the arrival of something or someone. This is the time of living in darkness in the hues of unknowing, of being quiet, of reflecting on a year almost past, waiting for a new beginning, for a closing or an end. This is the time for digesting the lessons of days gone past, for anticipating the future. We are waiting. We're waiting for a world which can know justice. We are waiting for a lasting peace. We are waiting for the bridge to span the divides which separate us. We are waiting for a promise or a hope. For all of this, we are waiting. In the silence, let us breathe and wait together. Our reading this morning is a poem by Methodist pastor and artist Jan Richardson. It's called Drawing Near, a Blessing to Begin Advent. It is difficult to see it from here, I know, but trust me when I say this blessing is inscribed on the horizon. It's written on that far point you can hardly see. It's etched into a landscape whose contours you cannot know from here. All you know is that it calls you, draws you, pulls you toward what you have perceived only in pieces, in fragments that came to you in dreaming or in prayer. I cannot account for how, as you draw near, the blessing embedded in the horizon begins to blossom upon the soles of your feet, shimmers in your two hands. It is one of the mysteries of the road, how the blessing you have traveled toward, waited for, ached for, suddenly appears as if it had been with you all this time, as if it simply needed to know how far you were willing to walk, to find the lines that were traced upon you before the day that you were born. So you'll notice that I'm back broadcasting to you from my home. The sanctuary is getting packed up, the pulpit's in storage, and so are the triptychs. So you're stuck with my curtain background from here on until we're in our new building. The church's Advent candles are also, the Advent candelabra has also been packed away. So what you see behind me is my family Advent wreath. It's a handmade piece of pottery that my mom commissioned. All of my siblings have them, and she has one as well. So it's pretty special to me. And it's pretty special to me, but it only fits a certain kind of candles, and those candles only come in white. So usually we have pink and purple candles for Advent, and my Advent wreath only fits the white kind. So be it. Now, in normal years, most years, the Advent candles in the practice that I embrace represent the things we are waiting for. So we're waiting for hope to return, we're waiting for joy to return, we're waiting for love to return, we're waiting for peace to return, and then we light the center candle on Christmas Eve. But when I pulled up the words that I've used in years past to light the Advent candle, they just felt off somehow. I think we're waiting for different things this year. And maybe those other things that we're waiting for are overshadowing the things we're usually waiting for this time of year. So if normally we're waiting for Christmas to come, we're waiting for the days to get longer, we're waiting for festivities, for chances to reconnect with loved ones, this year we're still waiting for those things, but we're also waiting for a vaccine. We're waiting for it to be safe to gather in person again. We're waiting for hugs. We're waiting for shared meals. We're waiting to sing together. We're waiting for that amazing feeling that comes from being in a room filled with actual people who share our values and love us unconditionally. And we're waiting to see if our fragile democracy can manage a peaceful transition of power, which is looking likely. And more than that, we're waiting to see whether our leaders can get things back on track. Is there a future where we return to compromise and civility and dignity, where we're able to bridge and heal the partisan divide? Looking a little less likely, but I'm still hoping. So in the context that we're living this year for 2020, my usual Advent practices felt wrong. They felt uncomfortable, like brittle somehow. And so I do what I do when something doesn't feel right. I take my discomfort, my questions, my uncertainty, and I go for a walk in the woods. I do that. It's my practice, and it's because I feel the world speaks to us if we listen in the right way. Now, what do I mean by that? Do I think that trees and landscape actually like have voices and insert their voices into my head? Maybe. I mean, my poetry practice seemed to develop into a listening more than a speaking. But it could just be that something deep in me recognizes, knows some things that my conscious brain doesn't know. And somehow the cues in the landscape in the natural world help me access that wisdom. Regardless of how it works, I know that it works, and that when I take my questions and I go for a walk in the woods, I receive as a gift insight, clarity, something that feels right, and more comfortable. And what this particular hike offered me was a reinterpretation of Advent for this strange year, with 4 new words that will be the seeds for my 2020 Advent practice. And today, what I'd like to do is share them with you in the hopes that they'll be helpful. But know that if they don't feel right to you, you can go for your own walk or engage in whatever practice helps you find clarity. You can develop your own practice for Advent. You can choose another holiday. You can choose an entirely different framework. But this is what I will be doing this year. For the first week of Advent, I'm going to light a candle each evening, and I'm going to light that candle for patience. Now, like the elephant in our story, I am not very patient. I'm the kind of person who, when I get to the checkout line in the grocery store, if the line's too long, I've been known to actually put my groceries back rather than stand in line. And this year, so much feels far off, and so many things that I'm concerned about are things I have no control over. Sometimes I wish I could give 2020 back and start the year over, but I can't. And I also can't skip ahead. I can't skip ahead to the time when we'll have a vaccine, to a time when the building project is done and we can regather in our beautiful new space. So I'm left with what we're all left with, which is sitting in the uncertainty as patiently as I can stand. So what does it take to be patient? For me, it's about breathing, accepting the things I have no control over. The message that came to me on my walk was, don't try to force the river. Don't try to force the river. Christian mystic Henry Nouwen says, the word patience means the willingness to stay where we are and live the situation out to the full, in the belief that something hidden there will manifest itself to us. So the practice of patience is about letting what is just be. It's a practice of turning toward the present and reality, embracing reality with unconditional acceptance and a spirit of love and trust that something is coming. So that's my practice for the first week of Advent. I'm going to focus on waiting patiently. My second week of Advent practice is going to focus on stillness. And what I'm going to take that word, that week, what I'm going to focus on that week is sinking into restorative practices. There's a need in me for stillness and for rest. This past week on my day off, I went and spent some time in a cabin that belongs to a friend of mine. And thinking that I was going to get bored in a cabin by myself, I brought all kinds of stuff. I brought a couple books, I brought my journal, I brought my guitar and my guitar stand and my music so that I could practice guitar. And then I got out there and I literally spent the entire day sitting in front of the fireplace, watching the fire flicker. I just find after 9 months of pandemic, I am so tired, way more tired than usual. And I know that this makes sense. It's the pandemic brings with it a lot of trauma, a lot of grief, and those are emotions that are sometimes tiring to hold. Now, I was raised with the Puritan work ethic, so it's hard for me sometimes to let myself rest, which is why I think I've been a bit of a broken record for the past couple of months, reminding myself mostly, that rest is a form of resistance. The phrase that came to me as I thought about spending the second week of Advent cultivating stillness is that still water runs deep. Still water runs deep. I wonder if sometimes there's something going on way under the surface that we're not entirely aware of. Neuroscientist David Eagleman said, "The conscious you, which is the part that flickers to life when you wake up in the morning, is the smallest bit of what's happening in your head. It's like a broom closet in the mansion of the brain." When I still my conscious brain, things shift just beyond the edge of my awareness. I often can't find words for what's shifting, but I feel it in my mind, my heart, my body. As I sat there, literally doing nothing but watching the fire flicker in the fireplace, something shifted. Something changed. And when I left at the end of the day, I was lighter and I felt more whole. So whatever was going on, it's mysterious, but it's powerful. So that's why for the second week of Advent, I'm going to focus on cultivating stillness. When we get to the third week of Advent, the word that came to me is clarity. Now I know, and you know, and I know that you know, that we can't solve all the world's problems by thinking about them. We can't solve all of the problems on our own intellectually. I know this, but I still make lists, do research, formulate opinions, consult the experts, and all of this is useful. But when clarity comes, I've discovered it doesn't usually come from outside. It's like this moment of internal aha. So what I can do when I say that in the third week of Advent, I want to invite clarity, is I can make space for that internal aha. This means engaging practices that help the mental dust settle. The word clarity came to me at a moment on the walk when right after my dogs had gone into a creek to get a drink. And they go in and they wade in the water and they wag their tail, and the water the mud, the silt gets all stirred up and the water gets cloudy for a while. And then they get out, and I stood there on the bridge and I just watched the water settle until it was crystal clear again. So I think the message that came to me, that clarity is a good focus for this third week of Advent, is about exploring all of the fun intellectual ideas and strategies and doing the research and making the lists, but then making the space to stop, to be still, to sit and to listen for the voice of intuition, for that internal aha. I think in that third week, I'm also going to make a commitment to myself that I'm not going to move without it. I'm going to wait to act or speak until clarity comes. And it may take a while. It might slow me down some. Rainer Maria Rilke, in Letters to a Young Poet, wrote, "Have patience with everything that remains unsolved in your heart. Try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms or like books written in a foreign language. Do not look for the answers. They cannot now be given to you because you could not live them. It is a question of experiencing everything. At present, you need to live the question. Perhaps you will gradually, without even noticing it, find yourself experiencing the answer some distant day. So that will be my practice for the third week of Advent, to live in the questions until the answer arrives. For the third week of Advent, I'll be waiting for clarity. The fourth word that came to me for this year is steadfastness. And the phrase that came to mind with this word was that all rivers flow to the sea. I believe that the forces driving our collective evolution act on all of us, and if we give it time, the water will find its way. So for me, steadfastness is about keeping my heart fixed on the destination, fixed on the goal of beloved community, a world with justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, a world where everyone is held and granted their inherent worth and dignity, a world with peace and justice for all, with no exceptions. The reality is that this journey is not going to be over anytime soon, probably not in my lifetime, and definitely not by January 20th. But to be steadfast means to be unwavering. On those days when I'm bowed down with grief, I know who I am, I know why I am here, and I know where we are going. On those days when I'm nearly frantic with anxiety, to be steadfast, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I know where we are going. When I'm furious and frustrated, awash with that righteous indignation, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I know where we are going. San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank President Mary Daly has said, to tackle long-term problems like racial justice and climate change, we must be both impatient and patient. Fiercely impatient to get the problem solved, but patient enough to take incremental steps to build it up, brick by brick by brick. The original title for this Advent service was What Rivers Know. And I gave it a title and then I completely forgot why I had chosen that title. And then spent a while trying to figure it out and find the reading. And anyway, I finally stumbled on it. And it is this simple quote by A.A. Milne from Winnie the Pooh. Rivers know this: there is no hurry. We shall get there someday. We shall get there. There is no hurry. And rivers are such a good metaphor because they do make a way out of no way, but it takes a really, really long time. Usually hundreds of thousands or millions or even billions of years for them to make their way to the sea. So to be steadfast, we need to remember that we're part of the river, and our job, even in these circumstances, is to keep on flowing. So this Advent, I'll be practicing patience in the first week. In the second week, the way you do it, you light the first candle the first week and then the first two candles the next week. So it builds as the month goes along. So I'll light a candle for patience, then I'll light a candle for patience and a candle for stillness. Then the third week, a candle for patience, a candle for stillness, and a candle for clarity. And in the fourth week, patience, stillness, clarity, and steadfastness. And in this way, I feel I'll be preparing my heart and my spirit and my life for whatever comes next. So be it, and so may it be. Let's sing together now. let Christmas come.
Let Christmas come, its story told, when days are short and winds are cold. Let Christmas come, its lovely song, when evening soon and night is long. Let Christmas come, its great star glow, on quiet city parks of snow. Let Christmas come, its table gleam, the born again, the truth of dream.
Our closing words are by John O'Donohue. For one who is exhausted, a blessing. You have been forced to enter empty time. The desire that drove you has relinquished. There's nothing else to do now but rest and patiently learn to receive the self you have forsaken for the race of days. At first your thinking will darken and sadness take over like listless weather. The flow of unwept tears will frighten you. You've traveled too fast over false ground. Now your soul has come to take you back. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls slow and free. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of color that fostered the brightness of day. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Stay clear of those vexed in spirit. Learn to linger around someone of ease who feels they have all the time in the world. Gradually, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells far within slow time. Let's sing now. Our sung benediction, There is a Love. Let's extinguish our separate chalices and say together the words to embody the flame. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place, and may it guide our way until we are together again. We're in the pause, we're in the waiting. Beloveds, be so gentle with yourselves. Be willing to wait. Be willing to rest. Be tender. Be open. Be accepting. And know that every moment you are held in this love that will help us find our way. Go in peace.